Iran. Say the name. The world hears sanctions, nuclear talks, headlines written from 1,000 miles away. Now delete all of it, because inside this country, a rainforest older than the Himalayas, where the last Persian leopards disappear into fog thicker than smoke. A desert so hot, NASA uses it to simulate Mars. Coral reefs that survive temperatures killing every other reef on the planet. Fish that crawl out of the sea and climb trees. A lake that turns pink with 10,000 flamingos, then nearly dies, then turns pink again. Wind towers cooling stone by 12 degrees, running on nothing but air for 1,000 years without stopping. 4 climates, 14 ecosystems, 1 border, no one looking. This is not a travel video, this is a correction, an inventory of what the world has been too distracted to see. From canopy to canyon, snowline to seafloor, every chapter crosses into a different world. Every world shares the same passport. The question is not whether Iran will surprise you, it is which Iran surprises you. First, the jungle no one believes, the desert nothing survives, or the sea everything underestimates. Drop your answer. By part 10, we'll know if you were wrong. Fog first, then green, then silence so deep it has texture. The Hyrcanian Forest lines the Caspian coast, 800 kilometers long, barely 50 wide, pressed between mountain and sea, like a secret kept in a closed fist. It has been alive for 25 to 50 million years. Ice ages could not kill it. The drying of a continent could not reach it. UNESCO listed it. The world still forgot it. Beech, ironwood, hornbeam canopy, stacked so dense the forest floor lives in permanent twilight. Moss colonizes everything. Bark, stone, fallen trunks, nothing stays bare long enough to dry. And through this green dark, the Persian leopard, fewer than 1,000 left. The largest leopard subspecies alive, solitary, nocturnal, built for fog. Camera traps catch them at 2 a.m. A gold blur crossing black frame, gone before the sensor resets. They do not pose, they pass. Below them, wild boar crash through fern walls, taller than a man. Brown bears strip bark in claw marks that outlast the trees. Caucasian squirrels move through upper canopy like rumors seen once, doubted immediately. Iran begins here, not in desert, not in dust, but in a jungle so wet and old that the word Iran has never once prepared anyone for what it looks like. Now burn it all away. Leave the Caspian. Cross the Albors. Watch the green drain out of the world kilometer by kilometer until the land forgets what color means. Dasht-e Lut. In 2005, NASA recorded 70 7 degrees Celsius on this ground, the highest surface temperature ever measured on Earth. Not air, ground. Hot enough to sterilize sand. Then the Qaluts appear, yardangs, sandstone ridges carved by wind into walls, towers, alleys, running 150 kilometers without interruption. No architect, no intention, just wind at 120 kilometers per hour, meeting soft rock for 2 million years, producing a city for a civilization that never existed. Sunset turns them copper. Midnight turns them alien. The silence between them is so total, it stops feeling like absence and starts feeling like something listening. Life here? The Lut fox, smaller than a house cat, ears like radar dishes, hunts beetles at dawn. Darkling beetles harvest fog on their own backs, tilting into moisture that rolls across the flats before sunrise. In the salt crust, extremophile bacteria metabolize in conditions astrobiologists study as proxies for Mars. The hottest place on Earth is not dead. It is inhabited by creatures that found the rules insufficient and wrote new ones. Isfahan does not introduce itself. It ambushes. Naqsh Jahan Square, 560 meters long, 160 wide. When the Safavids completed it, only Tiananmen was larger, but size is the least interesting thing here. On its eastern face, Sheikh Lutfullah Mosque. No minarets, no courtyard, just a dome cream tiles arranged so each one catches light at a different angle as the sun moves. The building is not one color, it is a clock. Pale pink at dawn, warm gold at noon, deep amber at dusk. Seenㅅ4K, the bridge of 33 arches, crosses the Zayande in a rhythm designed to be heard, not just crossed. Sound bounces between stone and water beneath the arches and returns amplified. A bridge that functions as an instrument. Above the river, the proof Isfahan is not a museum. Grey herons stand frozen in shallows. Kingfishers electric blue, impossibly quick strike from bridge stones like small detonations of color. In winter, thousands of migrants arrive from Siberia, flamingos, pelicans, coots, turning the downstream wetlands into a staging ground older than the mosque above it. Isfahan built beauty into structure. The river built life into Isfahan. Both still running. The Zagros do not rise. They wall. 1,600 kilometers of limestone and oak northwest to southeast, dividing Iran into two countries. The map refuses to acknowledge wet west, dry east. At 4,409 meters, Dina Peak punctures cloud. Below the summit, rock goes vertical, and that is where the Persian wild goat lives. Bezoar ibex. Scimitar horns curving over a meter, silhouetted against snow in a posture identical to Persepolis reliefs carved 2,500 years ago. The stone changed. The animal did not. Time revised everything in this country except the stance of a goat on a cliff. Golden eagles patrol above 2-meter wingspan, hunting hares across the zone where oak surrenders to alpine grass. Below the eagles, wolves, not chasing, reading. Tracking ibex herds with a patience that looks like geography. Slow, wide, inevitable. The Zagros are not a mountain range. They are a vertical ecosystem stacked in climate bands. Subtropical oak at the base, alpine meadow at the peak, predator and prey threaded through every layer like a food chain, drawn in elevation. Satellites photograph these mountains daily. But the eagles and the wolves and the ibex have been reading the Zagros longer than any instrument, and they have never needed a map to know exactly where they are. Drop 2,000 meters, cross the coastal plain, step off the continent. The Persian Gulf hits 35 degrees Celsius in summer, the temperature at which coral worldwide bleaches and dies. That is the textbook. The Gulf did not read the textbook. These reefs have cycled through lethal temperatures for thousands of years. Colonies that couldn't tolerate it died. Those that could pass the code forward. What remains is not ordinary coral, it is a biological archive, encoding strategies the world's oceans are only now desperate enough to need. Off Hengam and Larak, the archive is open. Brain coral dense enough to rival the Red Sea. Hawksbill turtles navigating reef corridors with the confidence of residents never evicted. Blacktip sharks cutting drop-offs where shelf falls into channel. Moray eels watching from crevices with the patience of things that have absolutely nowhere else to be. Then, January to April, whale sharks. The largest fish on Earth, filtering the strait in slow procession, mouths wide as doors. Movement gentle as weather. Beneath the tanker hulls, beneath every headline, 700 species, adapted, peer-reviewed by natural selection across millennia. Iran's sea is not a footnote. It is a laboratory that already solved what the rest of the ocean is only beginning to face. A fish is climbing a tree. Hara Forest, Qeshm Island. Iran's largest mangrove roots twisting into salt water, building a labyrinth so dense the tide negotiates entry. Mudskippers haul themselves from water on muscular fins, breathe air through wet skin, scale root systems with the stubbornness of animals that refuse to accept what they were. Fish that walk, fish that climb, fish that looked at the line between ocean and land and decided it was a suggestion. Above them, egrets in silhouette against tidal mirrors, Indo-Pacific humpback dolphins surfacing in channels resident, not passing through feeding, where mangrove roots export nutrients like a kitchen that never closes. Now drive 30 minutes. The Valley of Stars. Rain that visits once a year but arrives like violence, carving vertical canyons, arches, towers from soft sandstone with the patience of something that has all of time and nowhere to be. Walk in. Temperature drops 8 degrees. Sound vanishes. Sky compresses to a slit. One island, 2 ecosystems, one built by water that never leaves, one carved by water that barely comes. Qeshm does not explain this. It holds it the way the best places hold their strangest truths, quietly, structurally, without apology. Not all architecture requires an architect. Badab-e Surt. A mountainside 2 hours from the Caspian, ignored by most maps, where 2 mineral springs have been building for millennia. Water rises at 40 degrees Celsius, saturated with calcium carbonate. It flows. It cools. It deposits millimeter by millimeter travertine terraces that look carved by hand but were poured by chemistry on a schedule. No human institution could sustain. Iron oxide tints, some pools burnt orange. Sulfur turns others sea green. Each pool a different temperature, a different mineral signature, a different color, a palette assembled by geology with the precision of a painter who has never once been in a hurry. Steppe eagles circle thermals above. Persian wild goats walk the ridgeline at dawn, silhouettes against a sky still pink from the same iron coloring the pools below. The terraces and the mountain and the light, all the same chemistry, expressed differently by altitude. No sign marks the spring. No railing guards the edge. Water arrives, deposits, builds as it has for millennia, adding a fraction of a millimeter to a staircase that will not be finished in any human lifetime. Badab-e Surt is not a destination. It is a process caught mid-sentence, still writing, still building, still not done. Imagine a lake so alive it turns pink. Now imagine it almost disappearing. Lake Urmia, once the Middle East's largest salt lake, 147 kilometers end to end. Water, stained crimson by billions of Artemia brine, shrimp so dense they colored the surface like a wound. Every autumn, the flamingos came, tens of thousands, drawn by the shrimp, turning the shoreline into a moving pink line against white salt, against blue mountain. Then the pink began to fade. Dams upstream, canals bleeding, tributaries dry. Drought finishing what infrastructure started. By 2015, Urmia had lost 80% of its water. Salt flats spread white, cracking, sterile. Wind lifted salt onto farmland. Shrimp died. Flamingos left. Not all of them. Water released from dams. Irrigation reduced. Volume returned, not enough, but enough for the shrimp. And where shrimp return, flamingos follow. Pink reappeared on the shoreline. Thin at first, then thicker. Not recovery. Not yet. A negotiation between what was taken and what might still come back. Urmia is not a lake. It is a measurement of attention, of consequence, of whether a civilization corrects fast enough for 10,000 pink birds to stay. One country, 10 worlds. None of them the one you were told about. A jungle older than the Himalayas, where leopards dissolve into fog. A desert where NASA calibrates instruments meant for Mars. A mosque that tells time in color. Mountains where goats hold the same pose, carved into stone 25 centuries ago. A sea where coral already survived the future. A mangrove where fish climb trees. A canyon carved by rain that comes once a year. A spring building a staircase it will never finish. A lake counting flamingos to measure whether a civilization is paying attention. Iran does not match its name. The word has been colonized by headlines, and the land beneath them has been quietly sustaining jungles, reefs, deserts, and migrations. The world is only now learning to value 4 climates, 14 ecosystems, creatures that rewrote biology, structures that answered heat a millennium before electricity existed, and a geology so varied that crossing this country feels less like travel and more like changing planets without leaving the ground. The question was never whether Iran is beautiful. It is whether the world notices before the leopard vanishes, the coral bleaches past return, and the lake finishes its countdown in a silence no flamingo breaks